Stop right there, criminal scum!
There's something strange about the way we play RPGs. Gamers are given the power to be evil, but when the moment comes, they almost never do it. But why? Why do players almost always choose to be the good guy? Even when the evil path looks like it could be fun and interesting. In Fallout New Vegas, less than 5% of players have the achievement for siding with Caesar's Legion. In a poll, just 5% of players said they'd pick an evil path in a game that they were going to only play once. Alright, it's Mike Redacted, and today I have the top 6 reasons why people don't play games as an evil character. In this video, I've put together 6 distinct reasons why players overwhelmingly choose to be the good guy. Obviously there's exceptions to the rule, as in games like Red Dead Redemption 2, Grand Theft Auto, Saints Row, stuff like that. It can be really fun just to go around blasting random NPCs and being just a villain. If you like this video, please subscribe to the channel. One of the more obvious reasons why players do not commit to an evil playthrough is the ability to quickly save and load the game. This allows gamers to almost be tourists in an evil playthrough for a short while, able to return to being the good guy when they get bored. Especially in Bethesda games, when all you need to do is press F5 to quick save the game, and then after that, you're free to do whatever you want from that point onwards, with the knowledge that pressing F9 will bring you back to a world where all of your Nazim killing, mass murdering antics just didn't happen. Maybe you thought what would happen if you use a dragon shout on Lydia when she's standing on the edge of a cliff. If you were playing a Skyrim where you were only allowed to save by using a certain finite item or at a certain location, very few people would be blasting Lydia off the mountain with the dragon shout. But since you can quick save and quick load the game, you can bet your ass that Lydia is going to fly right off the edge of that cliff. Without the ability to instantly save and load the game, you need to commit more to your choices, which can have the consequence which we'll talk about down the line. Quick saving and loading is a system which is abused, but it does have some positive side effects. Quick saving and loading also allows players to blow off a bit of steam. For instance, when I was playing Fallout 4, I really wanted to play all of the endings. When I was doing my playthrough, which I pushed conveniently right to the end, with the Railroad, which I still believe is one of the most dumbass factions in any game I've ever played, on numerous occasions I had to quick save the game and gun down Desdemona and all of her gang of robosexuals so I didn't lose my fucking mind and give up. Honestly, I think I lost some IQ points playing through the Railroad faction questline, where you need to entertain the idea that my toaster has feelings.
Would you risk your life for your fellow man, even if that man is a synth?
It seems that quite a lot of the time, when you commit to doing evil acts in video games, you're committing to eliminating a lot of your opportunities in that video game. For example, when you blow up Megaton in Fallout 3, you're choosing to blow up the largest player home in the game, cut yourself off from any quests which involve people in the city, and cut yourself off from all but one of the NPCs and traders which live there too. It's not really a great trade-off. Sure, the explosion is cool, and it's funny to listen to Liam Neeson give you the whole "I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed" speech when he finds out you've glassed the place, but blowing up Megaton isn't the only time we're going with the evil choice in a questline ends up with the player losing out on content or ending up worse off than when they'd gone in, or if they'd gone with the good option. Even just having a low reputation in games is enough to make it so you're forced to pay higher prices. In Oblivion, having a worse relationship with a trader can mean you end up paying more for things. Of course, your reputation influences your relationship with all the NPCs in the game. Worse reputation, more infamy, means a worse relationship and higher prices. Even if you've never interacted with this NPC before, they just hate you.
Just go away.
Stop talking. Enough. Just go away.
Just because you killed a couple of guys in the Imperial City. Just because you can't help yourself and you keep murdering all the homeless people in the whole game. Being evil rarely means that new opportunities are opened up for you. In Oblivion, I can really only think of 2 instances where this is the case. The routes into the Dark Brotherhood and the Thieves Guild. But that's about it. No one wants to have their options limited so drastically, and often, people who realise what they're giving up with evil choices will usually rethink their evil choice and then reload an earlier save so they can take the good one, so they're not feeling like they're losing out on too much content or giving themselves too much of a disadvantage. That kind of leads on to our next point, which is that games actively encourage you to play as the hero rather than following through with evil or bad choices. Not being able to go into any towns or cities without being instantly attacked is certainly motivation enough to cool it on the killing sprees or siding with factions which could leave you disadvantaged. as I talked about in the last section. But most of the time in quests with multiple options, the default is to be the good guy, and you need to kinda go out your way and do some mental gymnastics in order to pick the evil option. For example, in the Dawnguard DLC in Skyrim, you don't really have the option to start the questline siding with the vampires, even if you're a vampire yourself at the start of the DLC. To start the DLC, you must sign up as a vampire hunter. That's it, there's no alternative, so that kind of means that the default option is to be a vampire hunter, and by the time you get the option to join the edgy teenager vampire clan, you're already probably invested in becoming a vampire hunter. In other instances where there is a good or evil choice, most of the characters which you interact with will expect you to pick the good option and be the hero. You need to defy your allies and people that you've made acquaintance with to make these evil choices in a way which just isn't the case when you want to make a good choice. There are very few games in which you start out as the evil character and then can break out and defy your allies to become the goody two-shoes hero. Even in Red Dead Redemption 2, where you can supposedly fill up your good boy meter and get a nicer ending for Arthur, he's still an evil fuck. You never become the hero in that game. You just take short breaks from being a mass murderer to give a guy some snake venom, or give a woman a ride back to Valentine, or donate $20. Arthur ends that game being an evil character regardless of what the player does. The game doesn't necessarily need to make it more convenient or push the player into making good choices. This is because the player's moral projection onto the main character can mean that the players are dissuaded from making evil choices due to things like guilt. Moral projection is a psychological or rhetorical concept where a person attributes their own moral beliefs, standards, or values onto others, assuming or insisting that others should think, feel, or behave the same way that they do, often without recognising the differences in context, culture, or perspective. Within this, there's a concept called moral universality, which is believing that your own sense of right and wrong is universally correct and applying it to others as if it's objectively true. Whilst morally projecting onto someone from history is a bit of a fool's game, morally projecting onto the main character of a game is not. Making the player morally project onto the main character of a game is part of the recipe that makes it successful. This is because it can give the player a sense of self and ownership over the main character's actions within the game. A good example of a moral choice which exploits a player's moral projection onto the main character is the choice that the player has to make between Gaunter O'Dim or Olgierd von Everick. Gaunter O'Dim, who may or may not be the devil of the Witcher universe, gets Olgierd to sign a contract for his soul. Gaunter O'Dim satisfies the contract through a technicality. Olgierd agreed with Gaunter O'Dim that to satisfy the contract, Olgierd and O'Dim would need to stand on the moon together. And whilst Olgierd obviously meant the moon that's in the sky, he never explicitly stated that. Olgierd is shocked to find himself tricked into standing on a mural of the moon, which technically satisfies the standing on the moon part of the contract. Gaunter O'Dim, obviously having satisfied his end of the contract, attempts to take Olgierd's soul. The player as Geralt has the choice of whether to save Olgierd or do nothing and let O'Dim take his soul. Olgierd is a character who may not be the best of people, that's stating it lightly I'm sure. But he did have a slew of rather horrific things happen to him as a result of the contract he entered with O'Dim. Players who feel pity on Olgierd may choose to challenge Gaunter so that they can save Olgierd from a horrific fate. Other players, myself included in this group, let Gaunter take his soul because we think that Olgierd's crimes are pretty unforgivable and he's also a dick. None of the prizes that Gaunter gives you at the end of this questline are particularly amazing because you're most likely a very high level at this point, so they're not really that worth it. So I would say that that doesn't really play all that much into the choice that you take here. I think this is a good example because different groups of people argue for or against saving Olgierd, both thinking that their morals are universally accepted and they made the right choice. When you do an evil playthrough of a game, if the game has implemented consequences well, you'll probably experience some negative emotions due to your actions as the evil character. You'll probably need to go against the grain of your morality to do so. I did feel a bit bad for letting O'Dim take Olgierd's soul, I think on top of wanting to be the hero, players tend to want the story to end in a nice way. It doesn't necessarily need to end with a happily ever after or any fairy tale shit like that, but it is satisfying when the main character and other characters have satisfying endings where there really aren't any loose ends. The exception to this is of course when the developers are trying to market DLC which has the true ending of the game in it, or if there is a second or third game coming in the series. To have this nice ending with everything tied off and most of the characters with satisfying endings, you really kind of have to choose to be the hero instead of the evil villain, as evil quests usually give characters in the game some sort of horrible ending, even if they're evil themselves. Even a lot of evil characters get terrible, horrible endings. This can result in evil quests kind of feeling like an afterthought. A lot of the time, the evil choices or quests in games seem to really only be there to satisfy a requirement for an evil choice. Either the evil quests are very short and to the point, or the evil choices don't make sense at all. Even if a player wanted to play an evil playthrough, it's usually going to be unsatisfying or hollow if the evil choices just don't make sense. The choices are evil for the sake of being evil, with no real justification or payoff. Let's look through history for some evil people who had justification, in their minds at least. A person like Ted Kaczynski didn't send bombs to people because he thought it was funny. He did it numerous reasons, one of them being that he thought technology led to the loss of individual freedoms. Perhaps he envisioned a future where the government made you upload your ID to a third-party company just so you can look at information that the government deems unsafe. Perhaps he envisioned that the American government would use the NSA to spy on millions of civilians for little or no reason. The point is that Uncle Ted wasn't evil for the sake of being evil. He had some, at least in his mind, solid justification for doing what he did. If your character in the video game doesn't have a solid justification for doing evil things, then there's really no satisfaction in doing them. There's no point in doing them at all, and they should just really be written out of the game. To add to this sense of moral duty to do the perceived right thing, most often players come into the game already wanting to be the hero and to do the right thing. Playing a game can act as a power fantasy. Being the hero allows the player to roleplay as someone with desirable traits. Similar to when players want to play as a powerful character, this is a form of escapism, and it allows the player to take the role of a character who is able to have a large influence on events and be admired by NPCs in the game. This is important, as in modern day life it is really easy and common to feel utterly insignificant. In Bethesda games they put an emphasis on making you feel powerful and important. This could be in the form of something like all the guards recognising you as the hero of Kvatch, or the Jarls sending you letters and asking you to do something to become their Thane in Skyrim. I think this recognition is one of the reasons that players really gel with their characters in Bethesda games, whereas on the other hand, players who are evil don't really get the same sort of recognition, so perhaps the ego or the power fantasy that players may come into the game wanting doesn't get stroked as much. It is easy to identify what's wrong with a system, but I think it's really only right that I at least make a passing attempt to suggest how games can make evil storylines and choices better. By better I mean more fun, more satisfying and more payoff. To start with, I suggest that if the game dev can't think of a solid justification to make an evil choice in a quest, then it's really not worth including the evil choice to begin with. Maybe just let the player skip the quest. If you want to have an evil choice, that is. You are free as the developer to make it so you have to be good. It's your game. As I said, being evil for the sake of being evil is boring. Acknowledge that the players want to be the hero and blur the lines a little bit. Sometimes in real life, doing the good or a righteous thing can lead to negative consequences. Wouldn't it be cool if more games developers made it so that if players want their nice ending, they would need to do something a little bit evil or morally grey? Dropping the bomb on Hiroshima, 80th anniversary today actually, was pretty out of pocket and led to the deaths of hundreds of thousands of people in the US, and was viewed as a necessary evil to achieve the aims and prevent the need for a land invasion of Japan. Potentially saving millions of lives, at least that's what the Americans told us why they did it. Not every choice in a video game should be as black and white as they often are. Nuanced decisions make for a better game. People will always prefer to be the all-powerful and important good guy for the reasons I listed, but I think that with some changes and some better writing, the lines could be blurred and people could find themselves being more motivated and interested in playing as the evil character. Let me know if I missed anything or if I did anything stupid in this video in the comments section below, and if you made it this far, you should definitely consider subscribing to the channel for more content like this every 2 weeks or so, allegedly.